On Valentine's Day, you see everyone pairing up. Except for yourself, a lonely single dog. So you rush to the temple of the matchmaker, praying for a gentle and graceful lady. But to your surprise, the matchmaker grants your wish and says the one destined for you is named Ruyan. However, when I found her, I saw a cold beauty with pink hair and tattoos. I was speechless. In my mind, I cursed, "Is this what you call a gentle and graceful lady you got?" After being single for more than 20 years, this Valentine's Day, I finally decided to go to the temple of the matchmaker and pray. I sincerely made my wish to the matchmaker, hoping for a gentle and graceful lady. And I donated 766 yuan, suppressing the tears and the pain. Just as I was about to leave, I saw an old lady fall on the stone steps. She yelled with all her might, "Which little brat is throwing banana peels around?" I quickly ran over to help her. "You're such a caring young man." The old lady was very moved. As a reward, she said, "I'll tell you something. Actually, I am the matchmaker. I can help you with your love fate." Then her legs were fine, but her head might have been injured. How could the matchmaker be a woman? This is really out of the ordinary. She's not going to ask me for something I politely suggested. How about going to the hospital? The old lady then immediately recited my birth date, where I live, and my parents' names. "Now do you believe me?" she asked. I still didn't believe her. With the current pig butchering scams, why are they targeting old people now? She was furious and struck the floor hard with her cane. "Alright, tell me the name of the person I liked in high school." I secretly had a crush on the class beauty. This was something I never told anyone except my high school desk mate. To my surprise, she immediately said, "Lang Rushi." She quickly added, "You just wished for the gentle and graceful lady you want. And Lang Rushi is exactly that type." I was stunned. I instantly went from skeptical to in awe. Great matchmaker. Where exactly is my true love? The matchmaker took out a smartphone, put on reading glasses. "Hold on, let me check." I was shocked gods use smartphones too. It seemed like she noticed my surprised expression. The matchmaker explained, "Oh, we gods also need to keep up with the times. Smart office technology, you know?" After a while, the matchmaker patted her thigh and found it. Your true love's fate. Her name is Ruyan. I was on edge. Is she a gentle and graceful lady like Liu Yifei? The matchmaker made some gestures with her fingers, which I didn't understand. She should be. Anyway, she's the type you like. You two are a perfect match. I wanted to ask more, but the matchmaker said she couldn't reveal more. She just told me that Ruyan is currently studying at a university in this city, and that I should go look for her myself. I happily returned to the dorm, and on my notebook, I solemnly wrote the name of my future wife, Ruyan. Just as I was wondering how to find her, my roommate Li Din came over to borrow my laptop. He saw the name Ruyan written in my notebook. Li Din was a bit surprised. "Why are you writing her name? Do you like her?" I was equally surprised. "You know Ruyan?" Li Din nodded. "She's very famous. The super beauty from the university next door. You haven't heard of her?" It sounded familiar when he said it. "She's really beautiful." I couldn't help but grin. But the next second, Li Din said, "Do you like her? It shouldn't be, right? I remember you don't like this type." I was stunned for a moment. "What do you mean? What type is Ruyan? Don't you like someone like Liu Yifei?" I nodded, "Yeah." "Then Ruyan isn't that type, is she?" I was silent for a few seconds. "Do you have a picture of her?" Li Din swiped his phone for a while, but couldn't find one. "If you're interested, I can take you to see her." I eagerly responded, See. Li Din said that Ruyan was on the university's tennis team, and she trained on the tennis court every Friday afternoon. She would be there before 3 p.m. He dragged me toward the neighboring university, and I wondered, why so early? "What do you know?" He looked at me like an expert. "Do you know how many people go to watch her play? If we're late, we won't get a good spot." "You look so familiar with it. You must have watched her a lot." Li Xin's face turned red. Life is incomplete without seeing spring's beauty. We finally arrived at the tennis court. Sure enough, the tennis team hadn't arrived yet, but the audience had already packed the place. Luckily, Lee Din had his friend help us secure a spot, so we managed to squeeze into a better position to sit and watch. I hadn't napped at noon, which made me feel drowsy. I squinted and leaned on Li Shin's shoulder. I dozed off for about 10 minutes. Suddenly, I was jolted awake. Wake up, Liu Ryan's here. The one with pink hair. Yep, pink hair. I opened my eyes wide. In a sea of tennis players, I spotted a beautiful girl with pink hair at first glance. The pink hair accentuated her sharp features, making her even more stunning. She was wearing a sleeveless tennis outfit, exposing a large tattoo on her left arm. The black ear studs sparkled in the sunlight. It must be that I didn't open my eyes the right way. I closed my eyes and opened them again. Nothing changed. My voice trembled. Li Din, is that Liu Ryan? Could she be the tattooed girl? Li Din answered crisply. Yeah, that's her. Isn't she unbelievably beautiful? Silence hung in the air, like the tranquil Cambridge. I was on the verge of collapsing. What kind of gentle, graceful lady is this? This is clearly a wild girl. In that moment, the first thought that flashed through my mind was, I'm doomed. With a tattoo, Liu Ryan can't apply for public office anymore. I tried to steady myself. Are you sure? The one with pink hair. The tattoo. And the black ear studs, her name is Liu Ryan? Yep, she's the most beautiful one in the whole place. It's a coincidence. It must be a coincidence. She must have the same name as someone else. It can't be the same person. Maybe I was too focused on staring at Liu Ryan, and it seemed like she sensed something. She turned her head and looked in my direction. Without warning, our eyes met. A hint of surprise flashed in Liu Ryan's eyes, while I was still lost in the shock, unable to snap out of it. I even forgot to look away. I just stared at her blankly. But Liu Ryan blinked twice, and was the first to look away. I don't know if it was because of the bright sunlight, but the ear with the black stud slowly turned a shade of red. I was restless. I wanted to rush to the matchmaker's temple right away to ask what was going on, but Li Din stopped me, not letting me leave. Do you know how hard it was for my friend to save us a spot? At least until halftime. Reluctantly, I had to sit and watch the game, although I didn't understand the match. I had to admit, the overall looks of the tennis team were pretty good. After watching for about 10 minutes, I felt like both my eyes and my soul were cleansed. Liu Ryan scored several points, and each time she did, the crowd erupted with deafening cheers. Li Din excitedly shouted at me, "No doubt, Liu Ryan is awesome." Liu Ryan glanced at us several times. A friend of hers immediately threw some cold water on him. I guessed it was because of a misunderstanding. He was sitting behind us. He explained that guy is the top dancer at the dance academy. I heard he likes Liu Ryan too. We, being curious, sneaked a few glances behind us. Sure enough, right behind us was a handsome guy, both good-looking and full of charisma. Right, this must be Liu Ryan's match, right? Perfect match. How could it possibly be me? I must have gotten the wrong person. Finally, halftime arrived, and just as I was about to leave, a lot of people rushed down the steps before me. I thought they must have been rushing to the bathroom, but it turned out they were all running to give water to the tennis players. As I walked down the stairs, my curiosity got the better of me, and I glanced at Liu Ryan. She was coldly rejecting a guy's bottle of water and drinking from her own water bottle instead. Other team members crowded around her, complaining, "Hey, Sister Yan, this is just a training match. Why are you playing so seriously?" "I'm exhausted." Someone else chimed in. "Looks like someone came here to get attention." The crowd laughed. Liu Ryan frowned. "Stop talking nonsense," she added, but she kept glancing towards the guy, like she didn't see anything, her eyes showing some disappointment. Then her gaze swept across the whole field again. When it finally landed on me, her eyes paused for a moment. It looked like she was about to walk over. I instantly ran away. I'm not a coward, but that tattooed girl, that attitude. I had the feeling that, in the next second, she would smash a tennis racket into my face. I immediately ran straight to the matchmaker's temple. But then I realized I didn't know how to see the matchmaker. I gritted my teeth, made up my mind, and donated 788 yuan. The effect was immediate. Soon, the matchmaker appeared with his cane. I rushed over and asked him if there's any way to find out more about Liu Ruyan. The matchmaker waved his hand. Sorry, I can't tell you more. The secrets of heaven must not be revealed. I silently scanned the donation QR code on the box, and with a crisp sound of a green bubble, 188 yuan was credited. The matchmaker immediately smiled and said, Actually, I can help. Bring me her birth date and time, and I'll know for sure if it's her. I was stumped. How do I even get her birth date and time? I asked Li Din. Do you know Liu Ruyan's birth date and time? He looked a little speechless. I can get her birthday. But you want the full birth chart? That's too specific. I collapsed on the bed, my mind full of that pink-haired girl. The more I thought about Liu Ruyan, for some reason, she seemed increasingly familiar. After thinking for a while, I sent a message to my high school deskmate. Have you heard of Liu Ruyan? My deskmate quickly replied. Yeah, she was the school beauty back in high school. Skipped class, fought, drank. But her grades were still pretty good. We both went to the same high school. No wonder her name sounded so familiar when I first heard it. I replied, but I don't really remember her. You were always buried in books, totally ignoring everything outside your window. All you did was study, besides occasionally drooling over cold and beautiful girls. Your high school life was all about books, right? So not surprising you don't remember her. That makes sense. I thought, I'm really desperate now. Can you help me get Liu Ruyan's birth date and time? My deskmate replied with 3 question marks. You like Liu Ruyan? No, wait, she's not your type, is she? I changed the topic. Oh, come on, just tell me if you can help me get it. He replied, it's not that easy. I can't do it, but I can lend you my IQIYI. Tencent Yoku Mango memberships. All yours. My deskmate suddenly changed his tone. Just don't mention it's for me. He sent me an OK emoji in response. Our school is holding a summer evening party next month, and I'm in the student union. So I've been busy preparing for the event. Gradually, I started to forget about finding out Liu Ruyan's birth date and time. In the past, we usually held parties during New Year's Day, Christmas, or other holidays. This is the first time we're holding a summer evening party. Therefore, the student union is taking it very seriously. We've been brainstorming creative and eye-catching programs. The External Relations Department had a sudden idea to get some external help from the neighboring school. Our school is more focused on humanities and has more male students. The closest school to us is a polytechnic university with more female students. When the idea was proposed, everyone agreed immediately. The External Relations Department was full of energy. They successfully contributed to programs for cooperation. One is a song, and the other is a skit. The programs were mainly handled by the arts department. I'm in the office, mainly responsible for logistics. So it was during the joint rehearsal that I first saw all the programs. On the first day of the joint rehearsal, I was working with another colleague, Yang Taiwei, and we were in charge of distributing microphones and headsets. While we were organizing the poetry recital and speech section, a loud noise suddenly came from backstage. I turned around to look and saw several petite girls entering. Some were carrying guitars. Others were holding backpacks. I was a bit surprised by the commotion. Yang Taiwei's eyes lit up. This is the ACE program from our collaboration with Li Gong's team. It's so impressive. 100% beautiful girls in the program. Just as I was about to hide my surprise, a group of people came in behind them, carrying several parts of a drum set. And there was the drum set itself. Yeah, isn't it amazing? Yang Taiwei whispered in my ear. And the girl playing the drums is so cool. She has pink hair. As soon as I heard pink hair, my heart skipped a beat. I thought to myself, It's too much of a coincidence. And in 1 second, I saw you, Ruyan, carrying a part of the drum set with one hand. The last few people must be part of their program because they needed so many microphones we had specially arranged for the dance performances, which didn't need microphones to go first. Yang Taiwei and I followed the list from the arts department to distribute the earphones. To avoid running into Liu Ruyan, I purposely handed out earphones to other girls first, letting Yang Taiwei handle Liu Ruyan's side. After distributing them, I pretended to check the equipment list. As I was looking at it, suddenly someone appeared next to me. "Hello," Liu Ruyan's voice came. Unexpectedly, it wasn't easy to hear. Rather, it was cold and somewhat disdainful. My earphones nearly dropped from my ears. "Can you help me adjust these?" I took a couple of seconds to react. Sure." Liu Ruyan's ear appeared in front of me. The black ear stud glimmered faintly. I carefully adjusted it. My fingers inevitably brushed her ear. I pretended not to notice her ears slowly turning red. I stepped back to steps. "Is this better?" I asked as she moved her head left and right. "It's better, but still a bit loose." Still loose, the dance program had already started. Without suspicion, I quickly adjusted again. As I was adjusting, Liu Ruyan suddenly called my name. Although I didn't know how she knew my name, I instinctively replied. She turned her head sharply, her eyes staring at me intently. With a teasing tone, she asked, "Do you want my birth date and time?" It felt like an explosion in my mind. My face instantly turned red. My classmate found it a bit immoral. "But didn't we agree to keep it secret?" Before I had a chance to explain, she spoke again. "You don't need to ask anyone else. You can just ask me directly. I'll tell you." I hurriedly made up an excuse, saying it wasn't for me, but I was asking for someone else. Luckily, at that moment, the dance program ended. Everyone rushed to gather the drum set and other props. Once everything was ready, the rehearsal began. Although I'd heard that this performance was amazing, seeing it for the first time, I was genuinely impressed. The song choices were all popular hits. The guitar was amazing. The drum set was perfectly synchronized. The student union staff were all hyped up. There were 5 performers in total, and they all looked great. But my gaze unconsciously kept drifting toward Liu Ruyan. Liu Ruyan was fiercely playing the drums. Today, she was wearing a short-sleeved shirt with a small part of her tattoo covered, but it exuded a sense of strength and power. Her singing part wasn't much, but it was beautiful. She seemed to radiate light, making it hard to look away. I suddenly felt that she didn't seem so much like a gangster anymore. The rehearsal ended. The whole room cheered. Even the teacher reviewing the performance was clapping. When the performance ended, everyone hurriedly started packing up the props. After collecting the earphones, Yang Taiwei and I counted them. Once confirmed, I noticed Liu Ruyan was still standing nearby, not leaving. When she saw I was free, she walked over, took out her phone, and asked, "Can we add each other on WeChat?" No! I need your birth date and time. She opened the QR code. "You can send me a message with the green bubble." I quickly denied. "It's not for me, it's for a friend." She didn't put her phone away. "Alright, I'll send it to you. You can forward it to your friend." I had no reason to argue anymore, so I took out my phone and scanned the QR code. Once we added each other, Yang Taiwei had a curious look on his face. "You and Liu Ruyan know each other?" "We both went to the same high school," I replied, although the process was very awkward. At least I got Liu Ruyan's birth date and time. Later, I hummed to myself and went to the matchmaker temple. I silently recited for a long time, but no one came out. Finally, I donated 766 yuan. The matchmaker came out. I looked at him speechlessly. "Are you the matchmaker or the god of wealth?" He grinned. "Is the matchmaker temple not doing well recently? Last month, our performance was at the bottom." He continued. "Honestly, not many people come here anymore. I've become a regular." I showed him the chat history. Is this Ruyan? The matchmaker glanced at the screen. He noted the name I had saved for Ruyan and asked in confusion, "Wild girl?" I quickly replied, "That's not important. Look here. This is her real birth date and time." He muttered something to himself, then operated his smart device for a moment. After a while, he said, "Yes, this is her." I wasn't convinced, so I asked, "Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm sure, even though I'm older now. But his business skills are still very strong." I stammered, "But I like gentle, dominant women. Ruyan is totally not my type." The matchmaker patted my shoulder. "Young man, you can't just look at the surface. You need to get to know her better. You'll see what kind of person she really is." His reasoning was solid. I couldn't refute it. Okay, I left the matchmaker temple with a complicated mood. What the matchmaker said was true. You can't just judge by appearances. I should get to know Ruyan better. Now that I think about it, when she spoke to me, her tone wasn't harsh or cold. But how should I get to know her better? During the second joint rehearsal, Ruyan asked me to adjust her earphones again. While adjusting, I thought, is this my future wife? Actually, after looking at her pink hair for a while, it's not that hard to accept. It's just, her half-sleeve tattoo is a little scary. I cautiously asked her, "Is your tattoo a sticker or real?" She paused for a moment. "Does it look like a sticker?" No, I explained. "Just curious. A sticker can be rubbed off." She paused again and then continued. Her voice sounded like Medusa, luring me in. "Want to try?" I was stunned for a moment before I realized what she meant. Try ... a sticker? Rub the tattoo and see if it's real. I swallowed hard. I awkwardly rejected her. No need." Ruyan chuckled softly. On the day of the official event, I was already very familiar with the process. When Ruyan walked up to me and bent down, I instinctively leaned in to adjust her earphones. Once adjusted, I gave her a thumbs up. She smiled proudly, nodded at me. Ruyan was wearing the band's white uniform, holding drumsticks in both hands. She was just sitting there, but was already a scene in herself. As the music started, she immediately got into the zone, playing the drums skillfully. It seemed casual, but there was a strong aura of control over the entire performance. As the drums played louder, I felt my heart was also racing along with the music. I couldn't take my eyes off her. So beautiful. Is this really my future wife? As expected, the whole audience in the auditorium was cheering. Applause kept coming. After they finished, Ruyan handed me the earphones with a smile. I gave her a thumbs up and praised her for being amazing. Time was tight, so I didn't say much more to her. I quickly got back into the preparations for the next segment. When the last performance ended perfectly, I sighed in relief. After a month of busy preparation, it was finally over. By the time the event finished, it was already 10 p.m. Then there was the cleanup afterward. And by the time I finally had a moment to breathe, it was already 12:30 a.m. I was exhausted. I just wanted to go back, shower, and sleep. But the others were unusually excited. They wanted to go out and celebrate. Our office director asked me, "Are you coming to have barbecue later? Are you coming with us?" I had a response ready to refuse. But when I asked, everyone else from the department was going. I didn't want to disappoint them, so I reluctantly decided to go with them. The student council's performance crew was in full force. A huge group of people. We all went together to Shinja barbecue near the school gate. The whole place was booked for our group. People scattered to different tables. I sat with my coworkers. Not long after, I saw Ruyan and the others coming in. As soon as Ruyan appeared, they were immediately surrounded by everyone. "Hello, beautiful. Come sit with us. Don't listen to them. We have a handsome guy at our table. Come here. We have to empty seats here." Our department director also joined in, waving his hand enthusiastically. Still space here. Come join us. They laughed and said a few words. Then Ruyan and another girl sat at our table. I couldn't help but straighten my back. As we were eating barbecue, someone suggested we play Truth or Dare. During the third round, the bottle pointed right at me. I chose Truth. What's your type? I was taken aback. Before I could answer, Yang Taiwei spoke up before me. That's too easy. I already know the answer. Bian Chong likes gentle, considerate girls. He doesn't like the domineering, bad girl type. Right, yes, that's right. Our eyes met. His gaze was intense. As soon as I opened my eyes, I nervously drank a few sips of water. My phone vibrated twice. I picked it up and saw a message from Ruyan. You don't like bad girls? If it were before, I would have answered without hesitation. Yes, but now I didn't know why. I couldn't say it. I just couldn't reply. I was hesitating, not knowing how to explain. Then she sent more messages. I was also a bad girl in high school. Would you look down on me? And added a little dog emoji with a cute, pitiful expression. Oh my, I was so charmed. This emoji is way too cute. It was completely different from her appearance. I quickly replied, no, I wouldn't. Don't think too much. After sending it, I looked up at Ruyan. She was looking up, and she seemed to be really down. She looked just like the little dog she sent. To comfort her, I thought for a moment, then added, actually, I was a bad boy before. She quickly replied, where were you bad? I responded, underdeveloped. PFFT. Ruyan burst into laughter. The girl sitting next to her heard the laughter and jokingly said, who's Yanji chatting with? Why so happy? Boyfriend? Ruyan quickly turned off her phone screen and went back to her school goddess demeanor. Mind your own business, drink your wine. Before I knew it, it was already 2 a.m. My eyelids kept drooping. I really couldn't keep my eyes open. I had to tell them I was going back. Yang Taiwei had drunk some and was a little tipsy. He also said he would go back with me. Because it was so late, he was worried about safety. Our office director asked if we needed someone to send me. Ruyan stood up and said, let me send you guys. I was about to go back anyway. The campus at night was very quiet. Yang Taiwei and I held hands. Ruyan walked beside me. I have to say, at this moment, Ruyan's big tattoo made me feel very safe. It felt like her face was screaming, don't mess with me. Yang Taiwei was a bit drunk. He was holding my arm, muttering Gongxi Fat Guy Happy New Year. We quickly reached the dorm building. Yang Taiwei, still a bit tipsy, waved at Ruyan. Goodbye, beautiful. I smiled and helped straighten his swaying body. We waved goodbye to Ruyan. Ruyan pointed at Yang Taiwei. Are you okay by yourself? It's fine, the elevator is still running. I'll just send him back to his dorm. She nodded. Okay, I'll head back. Alright, stay safe. I turned around with Yang Taiwei. After a few steps, I heard Ruyan call me from behind. I turned around. The dim streetlights lit up Ruyan, revealing her tattoos. But at that moment, I didn't feel afraid of her at all. She gave me a confident smile. Good night. I paused for a few seconds, my cheeks flushing. Good night. We walked inside, waiting for the elevator, and she finally turned to leave. In that moment, I wondered, had I really misunderstood Ruyan before? Seeing her this way, she really seemed like a gentle, cool older sister. Summer break quickly arrived. I dragged my suitcase to the school gate. I saw several cars parked at the entrance. Just as I was about to open my phone to check the license plates, Ruyan got out of one of the cars. She took the suitcase from my hand and placed it in the trunk. I quickly got into the car. Ruyan followed soon after. She gently scolded me. Running so fast, am I that embarrassing? I awkwardly laughed twice, mainly because Ruyan was just eye-catching. We drove all the way to the train station. After we found our seats on the bullet train, I still felt a bit unreal. The past half month, Ruyan had messaged me asking when I was returning to Nancy. When she asked, I suddenly realized Ruyan and I were from the same high school, which meant we were both from the same hometown. We were both from Nancy. Looking at the school's holiday notice, I told her the date. Ruyan asked if I wanted to go back together. I hesitated for a few seconds and realized I didn't want to refuse. So we ended up buying tickets for the same train, and our seats were next to each other. The more time I spent with Ruyan, the more I realized she was much more thoughtful than I'd initially thought. For example, my seat was by the aisle, and she asked if I'd like to sit by the window. She offered to swap seats with me. She had brought a lot of snacks, saying I could eat while watching dramas on the way. I ate a little, then I fell into a drowsy sleep. When I woke up, I found my head resting on her shoulder. When I realized this, I quickly lifted my head. Sorry, I said. I didn't mean to fall asleep. It's fine, she said, rubbing her shoulder. You didn't lean on me for long. I didn't dare to sleep again. Instead, I decided to watch some variety shows that were cached. But as I watched, I suddenly felt a little more weight on my shoulder. I gently turned my head to the side and saw Ruyan's peaceful sleeping face. She wasn't leaning heavily on me. It felt like she was just lightly resting her head. She hadn't put all her weight on me. The sunlight filtered through the window, and she was wearing silver ear cuffs today, which shone brightly in the sunlight. My heart raced. I suddenly realized I think I might like her a little. Not because the matchmaker said she was my soulmate, but because she's Ruyan. But now there's a problem. I like Ruyan. But does Ruyan like me? I had this vague feeling that she might like me too, but I wasn't sure. Ruyan and I only occasionally chatted. We never really hung out together. I'm a bit shy. I don't know how to actively pursue someone. So after I got home, I sent her a message. Hey, what do you usually do? She replied, play tennis, play games, and work out. I remembered her muscles and sent a message teasing her. Just don't end up with that bodybuilder physique. What's a bodybuilder physique? I explained. It's when a girl has unusually large arms. After a while, she replied, I was wondering if I'd said something wrong. But then she sent another message. But didn't you post on your moments before? That a peachy but is the best curve for a woman? I quickly brainstormed and remembered that a few months ago, I had indeed posted something like that. Back then, I hadn't added Ruyan as a friend yet, so I just kept quiet. I was fine though. Ruyan smoothly skipped over the topic. She asked me if I was coming to her tennis match the day after tomorrow. I quickly replied, sure. But I felt a bit shy about going alone, so I invited my desk mate to join me. I was quite persistent, dragging my desk mate with me early to the tennis court. We managed to secure spots in the front row. It wasn't long before Ruyan arrived. As soon as she arrived, her eyes scanned the crowd, and when she spotted me, she walked straight over. She stood next to me. Wow, you're here so early. I could hear the excited gossip murmurs around us. I awkwardly answered, yeah. But Ruyan didn't leave. Instead, she took out her phone and stood beside me playing with it. My desk mate leaned over and whispered, do you know Ruyan? I nodded, about to say something. But then my desk mate suddenly got excited and pulled me. Hey, look over there. I followed the direction of his finger, confused. What's going on? He raised his voice slightly. Isn't that the girl you had a crush on in high school? I quickly covered his mouth with my hand. I felt guilty and didn't dare to look at Ruyan. Ruyan didn't seem to notice, but I felt the pressure around us drop, as if the atmosphere became unusually tense. Cold Ruoshwang had noticed us. She walked over and greeted us with a warm smile. Long time no see. Cold Ruoshwang and I were in neighboring classes. We had the same teacher and took pay together, so the students in both classes were all familiar with each other. Yeah, I nodded. After graduation, we haven't seen each other much. Ruyan noticed cold Ruoshwang standing beside us. She asked, "What are you doing here? Why aren't you preparing for the match?" Ruyan's voice was calm as she spoke. She then walked a few steps forward, but turned back to look at cold Ruoshwang. "Aren't you leaving?" Cold Ruoshwang smiled and said, "I ran into an old friend, just catching up." Ruyan said, "Okay, enough catching up. The match is about to start." She grabbed cold Ruoshwang's arm and dragged her off with a slightly bossy attitude. Once they had left, I let out a deep breath. I genuinely hoped Ruyan hadn't overheard what my deskmate said, and the match finally began. I can't understand the game. I only hear my deskmate next to me saying, "I'm going." They're going to friendly match and they're packing. Ruyan is playing so hard. I couldn't tell. Is it really that harsh? Harsh, is it? Deskmate nodded. Don't you think his aura is especially fierce now? I suppose so. He is fierce, but I feel like he's always like this. Although I can't understand it. I'm still shouting "Go team" enthusiastically with everyone. During the break, everyone is panting and drinking water in large gulps. Leng Rishwang wipes the sweat off, as if remembering something, and walks over to us. Our class has been discussing going to visit our high school teacher recently. Are you all going together? Sure, my deskmate and I nodded. We asked for the rough time, then took out our phones and asked him to add us to the group chat. After finishing, Leng Rishwang left. Not long after she left, Ruyan came over. He clearly couldn't stand the heat. His face was full of impatience. Sweat trickled down his cheek, dripping onto his black sportswear. I brought a small fan. Seeing how hot he was, I turned it towards him. Ruyan's face softened a bit. You and Leng Rishwang were at home making bubbles? I shook my head. I explained that we already had green bubbles. Ruyan's expression changed in an instant. He turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, completely confused. What's wrong now? Ruyan has been in a bad mood lately. It started after the tennis match. It reached its peak after I told him I was going to see the high school teacher with classmates from the other class, and I refused to hang out with him. I thought about it over and over, eliminating 1,000 possibilities, and came to one conclusion: Ruyan likes me. He got jealous, though it's a bit narcissistic. It's only natural since he's my right-hand man. It's normal for him to like me, but I don't really dare talk to him. With the way he is now, I feel like the next second he's about to explode. On my deskmate's birthday, he invited all of us to sing karaoke. In the hallway, I ran into a classmate I knew, so I greeted him. Lee Moo-wen smiled. Lee Moo-wen saw me. You're here too. Do you want to come to our karaoke room? No, I declined. Classmate, I don't think I'm very familiar with them. I feel a bit awkward. Lee Moo-wen thought for a moment. Do you know Ruyan? Are you two in the same city for college? When I heard Ruyan's name, I shuddered. Ruyan is here? Yeah, but he doesn't seem very interested. He doesn't really sing, just drinks a bit. I mustered up some courage. Could you help me call him out for a second? I need to talk to him. She agreed without hesitation. Lee Moo-wen pushed open the door and walked in. I leaned in, peeking through the transparent window on the door. What I saw froze me. Ruyan's hair had turned black, but even without his pink hair, he was still incredibly eye-catching in the crowd. Lee Moo-wen walked over to Ruyan, said something to him, and pointed back at the door. At first, Ruyan frowned, but it seemed like he heard something. His expression changed, and he looked towards the door. He locked eyes with me, who was hiding and peeking. When he saw me, he immediately stood up and walked briskly out of the room. I stood there, dumbfounded, watching him come straight to me. Why did you dye your hair back to black? He asked me in return. Didn't you say you didn't like pink hair? I denied it. No, I never said that. He didn't say anything further. I saw the deep affection in his eyes, and I think I figured something out. I decided to tease him. I waved to the empty space ahead of us, pretending to greet someone. Hi, Lang Rushwang. Before I could finish my sentence, Ruyan suddenly made a move. He raised his hand to protect my head and pinned me against the wall. His small frame surrounded me, leaving no room to breathe. I couldn't see anything but him. Don't look, he said, his voice low. Are you trying to drive me crazy? I tried to push him away a little. But I didn't move him, I admitted it. I was just kidding. I had to come clean. Don't believe me, take a look yourself. Ruyan glanced back. There was indeed no one else. I smirked triumphantly and called his name. He looked at me, his eyes deep. Do you like me? Ruyan seemed a bit helpless. Why are you so sure? He grabbed my wrist with one hand. And you? I asked with a smile, sliding my hand down and interlocking my fingers with his. I like you too. After getting together with Ruyan, I took him to the matchmaking temple in our city. There were still very few people at the temple. I'm not sure, but I wonder if it's always the same matchmaker in every temple. I dragged Ruyan to pray. Is this your first time at the matchmaking temple? For some reason, he stuttered a bit. The weather's so hot, I forgot to bring water. We hadn't walked far when I started feeling thirsty. Ruyan asked me, are you thirsty? I nodded. He told me to wait for a moment and go check the small shop downstairs to see if they have any water. He went down for a while, and I went back to the donation box to scan the donation code. I wanted to personally thank the matchmaker. Sure enough, it was the same old lady who came out. She smiled at me. Looks like you found your match. I found it. I smiled back and thanked her. I didn't expect my first time praying for love to actually work. The matchmaker smiled mysteriously. Since you've donated so much, I'll tell you a secret. What secret? She pointed to a spot not far away. This fate isn't only being sought by you. I followed the direction of her finger and saw a wish wall. I didn't quite understand what that meant. I was about to ask the matchmaker, but when I turned around, she had already disappeared. I walked over to the wish wall, feeling confused. The wall was covered with wish plaques, but they were sparse, not many. I quickly scanned a few of them. I froze for a moment, right in my line of sight. There was a plaque. The plaque read Lee and WBC, and the date on it was from the summer after we graduated high school. I wasn't sure, but could this be our names abbreviated? Just as I was in a daze, I heard Ruyan calling my name. I turned around and saw a bit of panic in his eyes. Oh, I get it now. This must be the abbreviation of our names. His usually uncheckable face rarely showed signs of embarrassment. Are you looking at something? I smiled and said, someone seems to have a secret crush on me. He fell silent. I walked toward him and grabbed his hand. He turned his hand and tightly held mine. When did you start liking me? At first, he didn't want to say, but after I pressed him, he slowly began to speak. Do you remember? One time you were crying on a bench by the school? I passed by that time, and I saw you crying so sadly. I don't know why, but I just stood there and watched. I remember you didn't have any tissues. You wiped your tears with your hand. You looked so pitiful, like a little kitten. I even gave you 2 packs of tissues. After that, I kept running into you at school. I unconsciously started paying attention to you. I didn't realize when I started liking you. Slowly, I began to care. I was so shocked. My mouth dropped open like I could swallow an egg. You ... what did you say? Those 2 packs of tissues, you gave them to me? He nodded. It was during senior year for me. My grandma's cat passed away. My parents were working out of town, so I lived at my grandma's house from elementary school to middle school. Until high school, when my parents brought me to live with them. The cat was one my grandma got when I was in first year of middle school. It was called Mimi, and I was really close to it. Every winter and summer break, I would go back to my grandma's to stay for a while. It was to keep her company, and also the little cat. The next day, I had a monthly exam. My parents had planned to hide it from me, but I overheard their phone call. I cried so much that my eyes were swollen, but I still held it in and finished the exam. On the way home after the exam, I couldn't hold it anymore. I found a bench near the school square, and I just started crying. Tears were pouring out. My tissues ran out. I had to use my hand to wipe my tears. As I was wiping, someone suddenly handed me a pack of tissues. I was crying, nose running and all. I must have looked so terrible, but I didn't get close to the person. I just took the tissues. I choked and said thank you. Then a girl's voice came from behind me. She said, "It's fine." I could hear her walking away. When I looked up, the person was already gone, but there was still a pack of tissues left on the bench. To this day, I still remember that girl. I'm so grateful to her. I didn't expect that Ruyan was the one who gave me the tissues. I hugged him tightly. "It was you, after all." He hugged me back. His embrace was so warm. It's really good. I cheerfully returned to the dorm. I seriously wrote down the name of my future wife in my notebook.